Hello, I'm M.M. Hoshaw, author of Dyami and the Gobi Crystal. In today's vlog, I'm going to mention how people are affected by fear, such intense fear that it just shuts down all their thoughts. In the novel, Dyami watches a group of women running through the castle, being chased by men disguised as dragons. It's to her, it's obvious. They're not real. They're in costumes, but the women are terrified and are running to go to another person for protection. That made me think, that intense fear, when was I afraid? It took me back to a time when I was 4 years old, time to go to bed, climbing into bed. I didn't know, but my 8-year-old brother was hiding under the bed when I was doing that. He grabbed my ankle, and I shrieked and screamed, and then it probably took an hour for my mother to calm me down enough that I would be exhausted and fall asleep. What that felt like, that intensity, it's like the logical part of my brain just froze. And even with a 4-year-old mind, that planted in me the idea that a monster was hiding under my bed. An older sister comforted me the next night and tried to tell me it's time to go to bed, and I was afraid again. And she helped me look under the bed to see if the monster was there, and it wasn't. But that solidified so strongly that every single night until I was 16 years old, part of my night ritual was always checking under the bed just to make certain there was no monster. It made me think of other events that have happened. I thought about the COVID lockdown and the masks. Surgeons wear masks to protect the patient. They wear a mask so that they're not going to cause an infection and make things matters worse when they have, a person sliced open. But I watched the world, and it became twisted around by many. There was so much fear gripping the world during the time of the lockdown that people were doing irrational things like putting plastic bags over their heads and wearing 2 masks when they're alone and by themselves in their car. It's not saying that there was or wasn't a COVID, but it's fear became the monster itself. It gripped them in such a way that they couldn't think logically. Because even those little blue masks that everyone was wearing, on the box it says, "This does not prevent COVID-19. Then I thought about movies, and I thought about The Wizard of Oz. There's that scene where the witch is flying through the air on her broom, and she says, "Surrender, Dorothy." And what happens? All the people are running, screaming, fearful, going to the wizard. The wizard will answer our questions. The whole idea, why were they screaming? Why were they fearful? Their name wasn't written in the sky. And it was common knowledge. Glinda, the Witch of the North, told us about that the witches don't have any power outside of their own kingdoms. So she was literally just blowing smoke when she was saying to Dorothy to surrender, that the people really had nothing to fear. But again, that fear shut down the thinking part of their brain. In Dyami and the Gobi Crystal, they ran through the halls, and the women went to this queen who wanted to call herself the protectorate. But the queen herself was the one that told the others to disguise themselves like dragons. She created the problem, she generated the fear, and then she wanted the people to come to her rather than look inside. So then I thought, where else has that been in history? I know if I go digging for it, I won't have to look far, that you will find some kind of an authority that generates fear, provokes it, incites it, and gets the people to turn back to them, the leaders, to protect them from the fear. What Dyami noticed is she wasn't pulled into it. She saw through what was going on in the castle. She wasn't pulled into the fear. She remained neutral. She looked within for the answers to say what was the truth. That's the little gem that I share from the book today. There's many more to come. Thanks for listening. Bye.